Good Friday morning, peoples. It's Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation here with Roundhill um, distributions for their 5 single stocks based on NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple, Coinbase, and Palantir. And then we're going to talk about, I don't want you looking at all of that. Let's talk about the 5 new funds that launched on Thursday. They have an AMZ equivalent from EOMax, AMZW, Berkshire Hathaway B, a BRKB, and one on Robinhood, the Hood. Let's open that up a little more. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. And Meta, Facebook, and Netflix. I kind of like Netflix and Amazon in general. I'm going to buy some PLTW today, I think. And get that distribution. I'll talk about that in just a minute, just in case that EOMax continues the games and doesn't pay us. You know, who knows? The market, it's very toppy. Things could go down and we'll never see that $7 payout that they collected and chose to say, well, Friday really is the cutoff. Well, then, we'll see what happens with Coney, right? Maybe they don't roll it because they don't want to pay it out. So that's another thought, guys. I showed you we have $1. All right, well, let's focus on Roundhill um, and what all it means to us. Let's go look at the individual ones. So who paid what and what's it look like from a yield standpoint? Well, we start with NVIDIA. Remember, EOMax had a low NVIDIA payout this time. So the 620 declaration today with ex-dividend being on Monday and payday being on Tuesday. So 36 cents, that's a 42.99 yield on cost of Thursday's closing price of 43.92, which was down 44 cents from the previous week. Some of these are up. So they've collected $5.99 over time, but the fund has gone down 597. All right, so Tesla, TSLW, had a nice 56 cents. Look at last week. I think that's on a shortened week. I think they're 2 weeks ahead of what's going on. So this probably would have been the Labor Day weekend. So 81.47, the stock was up 4 cents from the previous week, 35.75 versus 35.71. Nice yield on Tesla. LW, Apple, down 71 cents on the week change. And look at this, 14 cents. If this was a short week last week and win from 2 weeks ago that they follow on, the yield really dropped on that. So 397 and they've dropped 1601. Yeah, the Tesla and the Apple over here, a lot of it has to do with when they launched, just like. So coin, we all know what happened with coin, right? With the Senate passing the Genius Act, and that's going to go over for more stable coin, go over to the House. And, that's super positive for the crypto exchange like that, trying to find some assets to tie to crypto, like the dollar or gold or other kinds of things. Hopefully real things. Paper fiat, I don't know about that. You just print those. What are they really worth? The faith in the government. All right. So 40% yield. decent payment, 34 cents, down from 45 and 50 and a 65. But I imagine that this didn't have a chance for the Thursday activity. So we should see that very likely in the next distribution. Although the fund shows it went up, but I don't think it was enough to give it the paydays here. Palantir, as we expect, had a big payment, right? 69 cents. Um, and that's a 78% yield. We had an 86% yield on a 68-cent payment back in May. We had an 85% yield, 67 payment. Now these values of PLTW were lower, right? So you're able to generate that. So 82, 81, let me put some of these in yellow. That's terrific kinds of stuff for this. 85, a 90, really paying out. And in fairness, Max had a great one at $7, 704 the previous month in Max. It's just the current one sucks, the 326. All right, guys, that's what individually they look like, and you love to see the positive. Paid 801 and they've gained $1.31. That's what you want to see. Remember saying, oh, well, NAV erosion's the name of the game. Doesn't have to be. Here's a 681 with a 391. This was a lot worse before this thing popped. So that's pretty positive. All right, let's go look at how everything wraps up. And then, I mentioned the newbies, right? So these started trading. I show a 1-day close here, right? Typically they come out at $50. So you had Hood in the neighborhood go up 275. Other ones were close. Nobody really dropped, dramatically. So let's look across here at total returns for kind of a clue on what's really happening here. I can squeeze some of this down a little bit. I should just put distro. Squeeze that down. Yeah, and get my total return. So we're looking at NVIDIA, the fund. It's got a positive total return. Now, granted, 219 was a high point in the stock market, but we're almost back up there, right? That's why I'm very concerned. Really, since 611, we haven't closed any higher. So it looks very toppy to me, and that worries me in a lot of ways. It needs to go on by that into a little melt up, or we're likely going to have a 15 to 25% downturn here. And that will not be fun to go through if you're leveraged too much, guys. So please be careful out there with margin and other things. The market is at very elevated highs. It doesn't mean it can't go higher. You can go broke waiting for it to drop, but at the same time, it is vulnerable from these levels. All right, so look at this, the Tesla fund minus 25%. You can't really change. I mean, all of these incomes are predicated with a bullish bet. Now, remember, in the Roundhill, they use 120% leverage, 120, 125. So when it's moving up, they're going to do pretty well. And they're going to collect decent income. They're not a yield max in their income, usually in that comparison, but they're more stable. So we see the two funds really killing it, and PLTW, an excellent, right? So when I come down here in the comparison, I'll explain to you why they're beating Pulte. And more of it just has to do with when Pulte came out, right? Because I moved the Yomax to match the Roundhills launch because the Yomax, most of them had been around longer. And in doing that, Pulte had run up to, $94. Well, at 219, it was like 80. Well, it's under that now, but it's still way ahead of its $50 launch. So uh, it's not unfair. It's just, I always say if you pick a stock that's right at the low in the general market and say it's a spider index, and the first month that you got a NAV increase of 15% and you're getting, 20, 30 yield, then you're projecting out that year what you're going to get. And then for the next 10 years, well, as you know, the stock market doesn't operate that way. It decides what it wants to do. And there's rotation from sector to sector. There's rotation within sectors from large caps to mid caps to small caps. I mean, I could go on, right? You could be in pharma and have pharma doing really well, but a certain kind of genetics, medicines are the ones that are soaring for this 3 months, and another time it's, you know, um, kidney dialysis replacement kind of or prevention, so there's all of these, or geriatrics to limit aging on the body. So different areas run and move, and that really is the key to understanding what you own, what the sector is doing, and what kind of momentum. Um, so even these individual stocks, you can say, well, I'm in tech. Maybe Amazon takes off and is really running, and Apple is falling, and you're like, well, the tech sector is generally moving up. Yeah, but they're all on different cycles within the cycle and within the sector. So just thought I'd give you a little bit of info there. All right, so let's look at the individuals. Let's look, and I need to add other weeklies here. Like, in this case, we do have some Neos is popping up. Um, We've got Roundhill in here. Who else was? Oh, the Yield Boost, right? They got some brand new ones, but I think they're one of theirs, their Tesla equivalent. I need to move over here. So anyway, and I did some of that. I did some, comparisons on NVIDIA and picked 4 or 5 and put it out. I just didn't move everything over here into my Roundhill summary, guys. So looking at this, green means who's winning this. The underlying isn't actually in this, but most of the time, look down here at coin. The underlying's winning. Well, I know you guys are looking at income, so I'm not going to call it the winner, right? I give the winner between the income funds. So with NVW and NVDW, NVD versus NV, they actually call this DW now, right? The Tesla one and the NVIDIA ones were 3 letters, and they forced them to go to 4. So we see a 4% total return from the Roundhill, 16% total return for the same time frame in NVIDIA, and only 14 in the underlying. But remember, this guy gets to count his income. But normally, this is pretty rare to see this. So there's Tesla is beating with a 3.86 total return versus TSLW. But yet, look at, oh, is something wrong here on this one? Why is Tesla showing so little? 292. Well, it's got all the stuff and only paid 40 cents last time. 76.40. These are monthly, and then obviously my NVDW stuff's all calculated up there, so I don't have to come out on um, that way here. So minus 28 on Tesla, and Tesla's managed the 3.86. Um, what are we seeing? The area there, yeah. But look at Tesla. It's got the highest NAV erosion of the three. Not that much worse than TSLW, but it pays, right? It's paid 72.45 annualized yield. You take the 121 and multiply it by the year factor. Um, they've paid out a nice amount of money up here. but your actual yield, but look at the price of, you're talking about a $12 stock here and a $51 stock. So $3 on this kind of a stock value. Granted, it's moved around to different levels, right? The current price is 829. So you're talking about, that's why its actual dividend return is almost double, 24% to 13%, and it's only 2% off on this. So anyway, guys, that's all the data that goes behind this. And look at, everybody's getting killed on the Apple world. Apple is winning it with a negative 29 total return. So on coin, everybody is positive, right? They're just more positive than Coney is, almost 20% total return versus 4. And down here, Pulte is 40. They're all excellent. Look at Palantir, 95% return in 4 months. And 40% here on Pulte, including dividends. And look at this, though. This is where, it goes down. But it's paid 26.22. I did include the new 326, right? Because it's been declared. Once it's declared, I include it, just like with Coney. Sometimes we get caught not having one, and the Roundhill will have 1 or 2 of its weeks. And in some fairness, around Roundhill, we may get ours, but they've only got for the month, and they've only got 2 of their 4 payments that they're going to have over the weekly. So, one gets ahead, it all kind of works out. All right, guys, that's what I got for you. Please understand, Roundhill's got the 5 newbies. I'm going to buy some PLTW today, just because I want to try the weekly. I like their scenario. Um, and I need to spread my money around, not give it all for income on Palantir to yield max. They got to show me they want to earn it, right? Communication, guys. All right, that's what I got for you, peoples. I'll probably come back with the Granite. Granite also declared on their yield boost. Most of their yield boost is new. They do have 1 or 2 that's been around. They need to work on their NAV. I'm hoping they get their NAV reduction. They're using puts instead of calls, so we'll see how that works out. All right, guys, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Have a great day ahead. Bye for now.